Picture this, an island lost in time. Long, ghastly shadows drape the landscape. Dense foliage and heavy undergrowth obscure your vision. As you walk through this island, you begin to feel uneasy, as though someone or something is watching you. This is La Isla de las Muñecas, the island of dolls, one of the most accursed places on Earth. Today, we're unraveling the spine-chilling story of this cursed island, where the line between the living and the dead is as thin as the mist that shrouds the small island in constant darkness. So prepare yourself for a terrifying look at the haunted island of dolls. The supernatural tale of the island begins in an age long past, deep within the canals of Xochimilco. For centuries, Aztec priests and warriors revered the canals, claiming the waters within offered arcane insight into long-forgotten divine secrets. But the waters demanded a steep price. To extract their secrets, an offering of blood and death was required. Over centuries, this labyrinth of narrow waterways saw thousands of ritualistic sacrifices conducted, each staining the waters red. It was said the purer the soul, the more knowledge could be gleaned, resulting in the eventual brutalization of young women and children. Eventually, the Aztec Empire slowly faded into the dust of history. But their victims did not. A lingering curse of undeath shrouded the canals, and a haunting chorus of evil arose as the victims of Xochimilco found themselves reincarnated as mournful spirits, trapped in the ether between life and death. The true nature of the curse lay dormant for hundreds of years, patiently awaiting its next herald, until one day, its perfect victim arrived. During a morning walk in the 1950s, a Mexican man named Don Julian Santana stumbled upon the now densely forested heart of the canals. Trekking through the foliage, he arrived at a deep lake, where he heard a melodic song resonating from the depths of the waters. It called to him, begging for his assistance in a simple task. Later that same day, Don Julian arrived home, packed one bag of his belongings and retreated from society, leaving behind his wife and child to live in isolation on the remote island. What happened next is still a matter of some debate, but what is known is still disturbing. Sometime after returning to the island, Don Julian emerged from the jungle, drenched from head to toe, carrying the lifeless body of a young girl who he claimed drowned in the canals. But what's even more chilling is what happened next. A short time later, Don Julian reportedly found a headless doll floating in the exact spot where the girl had perished. Crying out in joy, it is said Don Julian began praising the gods of the canals as he held the doll in his hands, finally understanding his duty. These terrifying haunts were only the beginning. Don Julian heard whispers in the night as he patrolled the island. Soft, pleading voices filled the air all around him. The voices commanded him to conduct ancient warding rituals, claiming the water demanded protection. The most prolific and strange of these rituals involved the collection of dolls, similar to the one he found floating. Each doll was an offering, a way to protect the island and the waters from what he claimed was a terrible and vengeful spirit slumbering deep within. The more dolls he collected, the more intense his claims of a haunting became. As the years went by, his collection grew. He scavenged the canals and local trash heaps for any dolls he could find, often trading fruits and vegetables he grew on the island for old, discarded dolls. It didn't take long before these eerie figures covered the entire island, hanging from trees, nailed to walls, and even partially buried in the ground, each one more grotesque and decayed than the last. Don Julian claimed that he could feel the dolls coming to life, their eyes following him as he moved, their limbs twitching in the dead of night. Soon, Don Julian began inviting visitors to the island, claiming the water spirits required more attention. These visitors, usually locals, reported strange and terrifying experiences. Some claimed they heard the faint sounds of girls crying, a mournful wail that echoed through the trees. Others felt an overwhelming sense of dread near the lake, as though something didn't want them there. Some even confirmed Don Julian's claims that the dolls moved, One of his former friends said one evening while visiting the island, he witnessed hundreds of tiny doll heads turning to face him, their eyes blinking, lips parting as if to whisper some dark secret. The island's reputation as a place of supernatural activity grew, and soon it became known as a cursed and haunted place. The haunting reached its peak in 2001. After nearly 5 decades of living in isolation, Don Julian met his death in the same canal, where he claimed to have found the young girl's body years before. His body showed clear signs of drowning. His torso appeared swollen. His head was blue and soft. Most disturbing was one feature of his face. Spread across his chin, almost from ear to ear, was a toothy grin. It was as though he died overjoyed, embraced by some unseen entity. The exact nature of his death remains a mystery. Some visitors say they saw skeletal hands reaching up from within the canals, grasping at his body as it floated down the canal stream. Others believe the spirits inhabiting the dolls slew him before throwing his body into the lake. Some say that his spirit never left, that he still walks the island, harmonizing songs late in the evening, forever trapped alongside the spirits he so treasured. What is certain is that Don Julian's death plunged the island into a new, even darker era of hauntings. In the years since, the Island of Dolls has devolved even further into something more grim and grotesque. And for those who visit, the experience is far from a casual sightseeing trip. Many have reported feeling an oppressive, almost suffocating energy as soon as they step onto the island. Some have described the inexplicable urge to throw themselves into the lake, as if some unseen force was drawing them in. Reports of a bloated, ghostly figure moving between the trees are common, especially during dusk and dawn. Old friends and villagers claim the ghostly figure resembles Don Julian perfectly, complete with his massive, unnatural death grin. Many locals often hear soothing melodies emerging from the canals and central lake that seem to call out to them in search of a new caretaker. Others have captured inexplicable images on their cameras, shadowy forms, glowing eyes, or the faint outline of a girl standing among the dolls. And then there are the dolls themselves. Surrounded by the hordes of decomposing dolls, most visitors claim to hear dissonant whispers emerging from their plastic mouths. Many further claim that the dolls physically react to their presence as though they were alive. Reports abound of dolls moving on their own, heads turning, eyes blinking, mouths opening and closing. Even skeptics of the island's dark energies often come to believe Don Julian's original claims about the dolls, that they function not just as wards but as vessels, containers for the spirits of the sacrificed Aztec women who still haunt the island. The evil of the island seems to run rampant now in the absence of its herald, the deceased Don Julian. The true nature of the Island of Dolls remains a mystery. Is it a place where the spirits of the dead are trapped, forever bound to the island and the dolls that adorn it? Or is it a place where something darker and far more ancient resides, something that feeds on fear and obsession, and that has drawn countless souls into its web over thousands of years? What we do know is that the island has a power of its own, a power that has only grown stronger with time, and that has drawn countless innocents to their untimely demise. Some local descendants from the ancient Aztecs have their own theories. They believe that a great divine curse gripped the land around the island at the beginning of time. This curse, the last remains of a long-dead god or other celestial entity, demanded blood. It craved the sweet taste of slaughter and willingly offered knowledge for a blood price. The ancient god readily received the sacrifices offered and forever bound their souls to the waters. When the being went dormant, the spirits of the women remained, seeking vengeance and freedom. They found that freedom in Don Julian, who they manipulated to do their bidding. His efforts resulted in him providing them with new vessels, the dolls. Within each doll dwells the spirit of a sacrificed woman, patiently awaiting a new caretaker. Whatever the truth may be, one thing is certain. The Island of Dolls is a place like no other, a place where the past never dies, where the boundary between the living and the dead is blurred, and every step you take is watched ominously by thousands of scrying eyes. So, If you ever find yourself in Mexico City and the canals of Xochimilco beckon you, remember the story of the Island of Dolls. But know this, once you set foot on that island, you may never truly leave. Because the dolls are always watching, and they never forget. Thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this real scary haunt, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. For more haunting tales from one of the darkest corners of the world, click to watch our video.